You have noticed it. You replaced every bulb in your house with LEDs a few years ago because the box said they would last 25,000 hours. That is supposed to be almost 10 years at 7 hours a day. But you are already replacing them. The kitchen went dark after 2 years. The bathroom started flickering at 18 months. The porch light you leave on every night barely made it through one winter. You assumed you got a bad batch. You bought more. Those died too. You are not unlucky. You are experiencing a design choice that the lighting industry has been making for over 100 years. And to understand why your LED bulbs are dying, you need to know about a meeting that took place in Geneva on December 23, 1924. On that date, representatives from the most powerful light bulb manufacturers on Earth gathered in secret. Present were top representatives from all the major light bulb manufacturers, including Germany's Osram, the Netherlands' Philips, France's Compagnie des Lamps, and the United States General Electric. They formed what became known as the Phoebus Cartel. It was a supervisory body that would carve up the worldwide incandescent light bulb market. It was the first cartel in history to enjoy a truly global reach. Here is what they did. The household light bulb in 1924 was already technologically sophisticated. The burning time was easily 2,500 hours or more. The cartel looked at that number and decided it was too high. Bulbs that lasted too long meant fewer sales. So they engineered them to die faster. Over the course of nearly a decade, the cartel succeeded. The average life of a standard reference light bulb produced in dozens of Phoebus members' factories dropped by a third between 1926 and 1933, from 1,800 hours to just 1,205 hours. And to enforce that limit, the cartel tested their bulbs and fined manufacturers for bulbs that lasted more than 1,000 hours. If you made a bulb that worked too well, you were punished for it. Both internal comments from cartel executives and later findings by a U.S. court suggest that the cartel's direct motivation was to increase profits by forcing customers to buy bulbs more frequently. One of the cartel's own executives, Anton Phillips, head of the company that still makes your light bulbs today, said it plainly. After the very strenuous efforts we made to emerge from a period of long-life lamps, it is of the greatest importance that we do not sink back into the same mire by paying no attention to voltages and supplying lamps that will have a very prolonged life. He was warning his colleagues not to accidentally make a good product. Now here is the part nobody talks about. That cartel collapsed during World War II. But the standard it created never did. Following its dissolution, light bulbs continued to be sold at the 1,000-hour life standardized by the cartel. For the next 80 years, every incandescent bulb you bought burned for roughly 1,000 hours. Not because of physics. Because of a business decision made in 1924. Now you are thinking, that was incandescent. LEDs are different. They are supposed to last 25,000 hours. And here is where the story turns dark. While LED chips themselves can last upwards of 100,000 hours under ideal conditions, the reality is that the other components in LED bulbs, such as circuitry and power converters, often fall short. The LED itself, the little semiconductor that produces light, is nearly immortal. Based on standard testing, LED strings can easily reach 45,000 hours. The controllers last much more than 100,000 hours. Diodes and transistors really last a long time. Your LED bulb is not dying because the LED failed. It is dying because the cheapest component in the circuit failed. The electrolytic capacitor. The driver converts your home's AC power into a controlled DC voltage that an LED requires. That driver is built around electrolytic capacitors. A major culprit is the electrolytic capacitor. In high-temperature conditions, electrolytic capacitors degrade faster and can reduce the driver's lifespan. And where do they put this heat-sensitive component? Packing heat-producing parts and heat-sensitive parts together in a package with poor cooling like a plastic socket is just asking for trouble. Which is exactly what practice is showing. The LED chip wants to run for 100,000 hours. But the 50-cent capacitor sitting next to it in a sealed plastic housing with no ventilation is cooking itself to death. While the LEDs are still good for a long time, the lamp life has reached an end and you throw it away because the power supply failed. You are not throwing away a dead light bulb. You are throwing away a perfectly good LED with a dead power supply that cost the manufacturer pennies. And here is where the Phoebus cartel's ghost walks into the room. The early LED bulbs did last 20 years. They also cost $38 each. People complained about the cost. As production ramped up, the price dropped to $20 each. People still complained about the cost. Today they are $1.50 each on Amazon. You are not going to get a light bulb that lasts 20 years for $1.50. The average price of 60-watt equivalent LED products dropped from around $45 to $50 in January 2011 to below $10 by July 2018. Since 2008 alone, prices for LED light bulbs have dropped a remarkable 90%. The price race to the bottom gutted the quality of the one component that determines whether the bulb lives or dies. More than 80% of LED drivers on the market today are designed to reduce costs without using any protection devices. No surge protection. No thermal management. No quality capacitors. Just a circuit board built to hit a price point. A cheap bulb can claim 25,000 hours and still be built with a driver that fails far earlier. That number on the box is based on the LED chip's potential under ideal lab conditions. In the LED industry, the widely advertised lifetime can create unrealistic expectations. These claims are based on laboratory tests conducted under ideal conditions, such as a constant temperature of 25 degrees, stable voltage, and no environmental stress. But in real-world settings, such perfect conditions are rarely achievable. And if you put that cheap bulb inside an enclosed fixture, the kind with a glass dome over it in your ceiling, you have just built a tiny oven around the one component that heat destroys. For every 10-degree increase in junction temperature, the LED's lifespan is reduced by approximately 50%. Half the life for every 10 degrees. Your recessed kitchen lights are not lasting 25,000 hours. They are lasting whatever the capacitor can survive before it dries out and fails. Meanwhile, in a fire station in Livermore, California, there is an incandescent light bulb recognized as the oldest known operating light bulb. It was first illuminated in 1901 and has only been turned off a few brief times since. The Centennial light bulb has been burning bright for over 122 years. It was manufactured by the Shelby Electric Company of Shelby, Ohio, towards the end of the 1890s. That was before the Phoebus cartel existed. Before anyone decided that a light bulb should die on schedule. A handmade bulb from the 1890s has outlived every LED in your house. According to a 2016 New Yorker piece, that bulb has outlived 3 modern webcams that were set up to monitor it. The cameras died. The bulb kept burning. So what do you do? First, stop buying the cheapest LED on the shelf. The dollar bin bulbs are built with bottom-tier capacitors and no thermal protection. Second, check whether your bulbs are rated for enclosed fixtures. If the box does not specifically say it, that bulb will overheat and die behind a glass dome within 2 years. Third, look for bulbs that carry an ENERGY STAR certification. For many home bulbs, ENERGY STAR is a strong starting point because it ties performance claims to specific requirements and testing expectations. It is not perfect, but it forces the manufacturer to meet a minimum standard for the driver, not just the chip. And finally, understand what you are really buying. You are not buying a light bulb. You are buying a tiny computer with a power supply. And like every computer, the quality of the power supply determines whether it lives for a decade or dies in a year. The LED chip inside your bulb wants to run for 100,000 hours. The industry just will not let it. They figured that out in Geneva in 1924. They are still figuring it out today. The only difference is the filament became a chip and the cartel became a price war. But the result is the same. You are still buying bulbs that are built to die. Stop replacing the darkness. Start demanding the light that was supposed to last.